Oh, this is better. Or, no, no, you don't like it? Okay, change it again, Something about, I don't appreciate him. I said, Pernell, if anyone in the world appreciates you, so even to writing that survival thing and putting up with you all the time, it's myself.
Pernell Roberts was a star on Bonanza, one of the most beloved TV shows of all time. Every week, millions tuned in to see the Cartwrights, a family that stood for American strength and integrity. But behind the scenes, the warm smiles and brotherly bonds were a different story. Roberts, the man who played the thoughtful oldest son, Adam, was nothing like his on-screen character. He was a classically trained actor, a fierce political activist, and a man who refused to sell out his principles for a paycheck, no matter how big it was. This refusal to just play the game put him on a collision course with the Hollywood system and some of its biggest names. On camera, he was the loyal Adam Cartwright. Off camera, he was making enemies of the very people he worked with every day. He thought the scripts were junk, the production was a factory churning out mediocrity, and some of his co-stars were just going along with a system he couldn't stand. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the Ponderosa to reveal the 5 figures in Hollywood that Pernell Roberts reportedly couldn't stand. Get ready, because you'll never look at these legends the same way again. But before we start our countdown, if you love digging into the untold stories of classic TV, make sure you subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. You won't want to miss the secrets we uncover next. Coming in at number 5 isn't just one person, but the entire system Pernell Roberts felt he was trapped in. A system personified by Bonanza's creator, David Dortort. To really get why Roberts was so angry, you have to understand the man himself. He wasn't your typical TV cowboy. He was a Shakespearean actor who had a Drama Desk Award to his name. He was used to the classics, and the idea of playing the same simple character week after week in what he called junk television was torture. Roberts truly believed TV could be used to educate people, but he felt the networks were just perpetuating banality. He once famously described his job on the show as being like Isaac Stern sitting in with Lawrence Welk, a dig that perfectly captures his frustration and feeling of artistic superiority. This wasn't just ego. He deeply believed in the purpose of his craft. As the show's creator, David Dortort took most of the heat. Roberts later admitted that for the first 3 years, he fought all the way against the scripts and the crazy production schedule. He said scripts were ground out like sausage and often handed to the actors the night before filming, leaving no time for real rehearsal. He called it a lousy way to work, and he made sure Dortort knew exactly how he felt. For his part, Dortort called Roberts rebellious, outspoken, and aloof, but he also had to admit that Roberts could make any scene he was in better. Still, the two clashed constantly. Roberts hated that the show's 3 adult sons always had to ask their father's permission for everything, calling the dynamic adolescent. Roberts wanted to tackle mature, socially relevant themes, while Dortort was busy producing one of TV's most successful family-friendly hits. The tension got so bad that Roberts said it was a crusher, mentally, and he even saw a doctor to help him cope with the stress. When his 6-year contract was up, NBC made him a massive offer for the time, a reported $10,500 per episode. Roberts turned it down flat. He walked away from a fortune because his artistic soul couldn't handle another minute. Dortort was stunned and later recalled telling the network sarcastically, "I'm not going to stand in the way of the greatest star the motion pictures ever knew." That bitter remark shows you just how deep the bad blood ran. Roberts's only regret? He later said he wished he could have gotten out of his contract even sooner. At number 4, we have a feud that proves Pernell Roberts' contempt for Hollywood phonies went way beyond the Bonanza set. The man in question? Chuck Connors, the iconic star of The Rifleman. According to Hollywood lore, their clash was a perfect storm of opposite personalities, substance versus style, And it all went down at a charity event for Western TV legends. It's important to note this story is based on anecdotal reports and lacks hard evidence, but it has become a legendary tale. Chuck Connors was the all-American TV hero, handsome, confident, and a huge star. But according to the story, Roberts watched as Connors acted dismissively toward the crew, carrying himself like a Hollywood king. The final straw was when Roberts allegedly saw Connors chew out a young assistant for a tiny mistake. For Roberts, who believed in treating everyone with respect, this was something he just couldn't ignore. True to form, Roberts didn't let it go. He supposedly waited until they were backstage and confronted Connors directly. What started as a firm talking to quickly turned into a screaming match. The story goes that Roberts accused Connors of being a fraud, all image and no substance. Connors fired back, hitting Roberts where it hurt by calling him a bitter quitter who couldn't handle success, a jab at his infamous exit from Bonanza. The argument got so heated that the two men nearly had to be pulled apart. They never spoke again. For years after, Roberts would supposedly refer to Connors with the brutal dismissal, all hat, no soul. This feud wasn't about a script or a role, it was about character. In Roberts's eyes, Chuck Connors represented everything wrong with Hollywood, an actor who cared more about his public image than about treating people with decency. The feud at number 3 is maybe the most tragic, because it wasn't about rivalry. It was about a friendship that crumbled under the weight of Hollywood pressure, leaving behind a deep sense of betrayal. This was Pernell Roberts' relationship with Dan Blocker, the man who played the gentle giant Hoss Cartwright. When Bonanza started, Roberts and Blocker were friends. They were both serious actors who were passionate about their work. But as Roberts started fighting with the producers over the show's direction, a crack formed in their friendship. Blocker, who was known for being easygoing, chose to be the peacemaker on set. He'd rather smooth things over than pick a fight. To Pernell Roberts, this wasn't peacekeeping. It felt like a betrayal. Roberts wasn't just fighting for better scripts. He was a passionate civil rights activist who was disgusted by the show's lack of diversity and its stereotypical portrayal of minority characters. He pushed NBC to stop casting white actors in non-white roles and even marched from Selma to Montgomery with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1965. He felt these were moral battles, and he wanted his friend to stand beside him. Blocker didn't. In one famous incident, Roberts walked off the set because he felt a scene was degrading to a Native American character. He refused to do it. He later criticized Blocker for staying and filming the scene. In that moment, Roberts felt his friend chose the easy way out. In a later interview, Roberts said with obvious disappointment, "Dan had the heart, but not the spine." The silence between them grew. When Roberts finally left the show, Blocker was reportedly hurt, and their friendship just faded away. The rift was so deep that when Dan Blocker tragically died at the age of 43 in 1972, Pernell Roberts did not attend the funeral. While some say it was due to his own complicated feelings about grief, many believe the wounds from their broken friendship were just too raw. For Roberts, losing Blocker wasn't just losing a co-star. It was losing a brother, both on screen and, for a time, off. At number 2 is the most symbolic battle of Pernell Roberts' career, his conflict with the man who played America's dad, Lorne Greene. On screen, Ben Cartwright was the wise, loving patriarch, and Adam was his loyal son. Off-screen, Roberts saw his TV father as a controlling figure and a symbol of everything he hated about Bonanza. At its heart, this was a clash of worldviews. Lorne Greene was the ultimate company man. He embraced the show's fame and its conservative, family-friendly values. He was a diplomat who never rocked the boat with producers or the network. To Pernell Roberts, this wasn't professionalism. It was selling out. He believed Greene, as the star, had the power to push for more meaningful stories, but chose not to. This philosophical divide quickly got personal. Roberts felt Greene saw him as a troublemaker, an intellectual rebel who dared to question the scripts. Roberts hated the power dynamic, both on the show where Adam always had to bow to Pa and on the set. Lorne Greene reportedly tried to reason with him, giving him fatherly advice to stick with the show, make his fortune, and then go fund his own theater projects. But to Roberts, that completely missed the point. It wasn't about the money. It was about the daily artistic compromises that he said wore him down. The tension was thick for all 6 of Roberts's seasons. Greene, who liked harmony on set, grew tired of what he saw as Roberts's difficult behavior. When Roberts finally quit, his parting shot was aimed directly at the dynamic Greene represented. When asked why he left, he famously said he didn't want to spend the rest of my life pulling my hat off and saying, "Yes, Pa." To the world, Lorne Greene was Ben Cartwright, the Rock of the Ponderosa. But to Pernell Roberts, he was the face of a system that put commercialism over art, a system he simply refused to be a part of. And that brings us to number 1, the most famous feud of Pernell Roberts' career, his bitter conflict with his on-screen baby brother, Michael Landon. This wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was a total clash of personality, ambition, and artistic vision that made the Bonanza set a toxic place to be. Things started out okay, but they soured fast as Landon's power on the show began to explode. Landon was charming, a massive fan, favorite and incredibly ambitious. Soon he wasn't just acting, he started writing and directing episodes. This is where the real trouble began. Pernell Roberts was convinced that Landon was using his new power to feed his own ego, not to make the show better. According to insiders, Roberts accused Landon of rewriting scenes to give himself more screen time and the best lines, shrinking the roles of everyone else, especially Adam. The feud reportedly boiled over when Roberts confronted Landon on set, saying, "You're not trying to make the show better, you're trying to make yourself bigger." After that, the two barely spoke unless the cameras were rolling. They were oil and water. Roberts was the serious, classically trained intellectual who looked down on television. Landon was a TV wunderkind who embraced the medium and knew exactly what audiences wanted. Roberts saw Landon as a shallow media darling, while Landon saw Roberts as an arrogant snob who was ungrateful for his success. Years later on The Tonight Show, a fan asked Landon if there were hard feelings. Landon shot back with a sarcastic joke. "No, I really didn't remember when he left," a brutal comment that got a huge laugh but showed the bitterness was still there. But the story might have a softer ending. Years later, on the set of Roberts's show, Trapper, John, M.D., castmate Betty Endicott recalled Michael Landon showing up for a surprise visit. She said Landon snuck up on Roberts, who then jumped up and gave him a huge, warm hug. The two men reportedly spent a long time laughing and talking, suggesting that maybe time had healed some of those old wounds. Roberts even attended Landon's funeral in 1991. But for 6 years on the Ponderosa, the feud between them was the stuff of Hollywood legend, a bitter rivalry between two brothers whose on-screen love was one of TV's greatest acts. Pernell Roberts was a man of contradictions. He was a gifted actor who seemed to hate the show that made him a household name. He was a champion for justice and equality, yet he alienated many of the people he worked with. So who was he? A misunderstood artist trapped in the shallow world of 1960s TV? Or a difficult, self-sabotaging man who couldn't play on a team? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. He fought for what he believed in, whether it was civil rights or a better script, and he was willing to pay the price, trading fame and fortune for his integrity. The feuds he had were not just petty fights, they were battles over the soul of his work. He once admitted the toll of Bonanza was immense, saying, "I wasn't happy. A person should be free to choose his own happiness." He left Bonanza to find that happiness. And while he never found that level of fame again, he did build a career on his own terms, eventually finding success on the hit show Trapper John, M.D., and returning to his first love, the theater. Pernell Roberts will always be one of classic TV's most complex figures, a powerful reminder that the smiling faces we see on screen often hide a much more fascinating and turbulent reality. What do you think? Was Pernell Roberts a principled artist who was right to fight back, or was he his own worst enemy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the secret histories of Hollywood. Thanks for watching.